Okay, apparently we are this time. Yay!
Awesome.
Okay, thank you, ladies. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sammy D was supposed to introduce herself to everybody today with a little bit of information about her book, My Big Fat Fat, her website, and all of that stuff. But unfortunately, she's not going to be with us as she's indisposed, I believe is the word. So it's just going to be the three of us, and we are talking about what do I believe about my body? You know, when I've ditched the diet, what do I do now? Because it's when I ditch the diet that then I have to deal with all of those beliefs.
Yep.
Okay. While I'm on the diet, somebody else is telling me, well, this is what you can eat. This is what you can't eat. When I ditch the diet and I'm like, okay, I can eat anything. That's when I have to actually deal with all of those things I believe, either about my body, about myself, about my self-control, about my emotions, about my appetite.
Yeah. And it often starts with the phase of just eating junk food and all the foods that you weren't allowed to eat through the period before you ditched the diet. So some people, when they ditch the diet, they actually gain the weight. And that seems scary in the beginning because, you know, they are consuming all these foods and so on. But I see it as your brain being like, really? I'm allowed to eat whatever I want, whenever I want. And then it goes, oh, and then I want this, then I want this. I see it like a child, you know, who's been set free from a candy store. And it's important to know that this is just a phase. It goes on because I see people often thinking, I ditched the diet. If I allow myself to eat anything, I will eat pizza and French fries for the rest of my life. And this is not the case. It doesn't work like that. It's just that first phase. And later on, as you continue to work and, you know, as you listen to your body, it won't want pizza forever. It just doesn't work that way.
I remember a story that I think it was Shirley Billingmeyer told us about this family, that their son had this crazy craving for some sort of cookie or snack or whatever that they always had. And they always had it under lock and key. And, you know, it was always restricted and he couldn't have any. And so the first thing that she did when she came into the house and saw the stockpiles of the snack, said, okay, well, he gets to be the owner of the key and he gets to control it. And the parents were like, oh, but no, that would be terrible. He can't. I mean, this is the one thing he can't have. And she was like, no, we got to get over this. He can have it. In fact, if he wants to have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, he can. Apparently, it lasted 2 days. For 2 days, he had that breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And on day 3, he was like, what's for breakfast?
Yep. Yeah. And I think what happens is you finally get to a point where you're like, I've had my fill. Now I can change the focus to what the other side looks like, because you've gone from extreme control to this crazy, almost party phase where you're thinking, oh, I can actually eat whatever I want. And then you don't think about whether it is what you really want. And then once you're really full, as in your mind is full and your body is full of whatever it is that craving was, that's when you come to a point where you're now in a place to deal with the rest of it. You know, because you've denied yourself physically of so much by controlling whatever it was that you were eating and not eating. And then this whatever out of control eating, if you want to call it, is just as normal, because this is your new normal now. And then Now you need to get to a point where you start understanding how to deal with it. But before that is that point where you're just like, yep, I want to eat cake for breakfast. I will eat cake for breakfast. You know, and that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah. And in this phase, after some time, it just gets boring. As you said, when you are allowed to eat pizza for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, at first it's fun, but it gets boring. And, everyone needs to take all the aspects of eating when you are hungry and so on. So then you ask yourself, what am I hungry for? What is the nutrition behind it? What do I really want? How do I want to support myself? And most of all, to recognize the normal hunger and satiety levels that you probably weren't recognizing earlier.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think even then, even when you're at a point where you're now aware of what it is you're eating, it doesn't have to be healthy in the conventional sense. It can be a healthy portion of something that everyone thinks is inherently unhealthy. So you don't have to eat a 12-inch pizza, all of it, but you could have 2 slices and then that's fine. There's no guilt attached. There's no, there's no, I'm eating this because I don't want to think about the shitty day I had at work or whatever. It's because I want to eat this because I want to eat it, and that's fine. It's giving yourself permission to eat because you want to eat, not because something else happened. And to get to that level of I can eat whatever I want to as long as I can justify it as this is just what I'm eating and that's it.
But I think that comes down also to Shweta of that mindless eating. Mm-hmm. Because what happens is we sit down with the bag of chips in front of the TV.
Yep.
Because maybe we were hungry.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But because our mind is not on the bag of chips, because our mind is on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you guys, but my hands need something to do. Movement.
Mm-hmm.
And so moving from that bowl of chips to my mouth, that qualifies as movement. Okay.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Now, I could very well have been on the elliptical bicycle, and that would have been movement, and my body would have been equally satisfied that I was moving.
Mm-hmm.
The same way that we see a certain generation sitting there doing crochet or something with their hands while they were watching the movies or while they were watching the news or something, and they were knitting or they were crocheting or they were doing some sort of arts and crafts.
Yeah.
They're satisfying that need for movement while they're watching the TV.
Yeah. Yep. Especially for people who are working at the office or something, we weren't born to be sitting,
right.
12 hours a day. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're mindless about these things. And so, we get that bag of chips, and it's not just the little, the little one portion bag. It's the bag of chips, which is however many portions.
A lot.
But, because you're not paying attention, you ate all of the portions.
Yeah.
Not the one portion.
Yep. And I think if that does happen, and it is after you've ditched the diet, maybe tomorrow's a new day. It's not about spiraling at that time thinking, oh my God, I'm so useless. I'm a loser. I just ate a whole bag of chips. Who does that? Etc. It's that the next time you are in that situation, to be aware of, can I take some out in a bowl? Or as I used to do it, can I keep it upstairs? Because the minute I keep that upstairs, I know I'm lazy enough not to go upstairs to refill the bowl. So I would sit with that bowl there with the chips in it.
Oh, that's a brilliant idea.
And then not go upstairs because, that's me. It's about knowing what works for you. Or as my mom used to do. She used to every time there was a commercial break on her daily soap on the TV, she used to just go walk up and down the stairs, and she used to get a little bit of movement, and that used to be enough for her. Not gonna sit through and
Wow.
watch commercials. I'm just gonna walk up and down the stairs instead.
Hmm.
So just whatever works for you.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think that what you said, whatever works for you, that's the point, when you ditch the diet now, the whole journey is ahead of you. If you spend so much time controlling everything about food and obsessing and so on, and now, you ditched it, and now, okay, what do I need to do now? And there are all those steps and all those aspects of it, and it's really, first of all, being aware of what you are doing and why, because sometimes, as you said, with a bag of chips and so on, it can be simply just a habit, it's not an emotional eating, it's not teaching or anything, it's just you always, every evening when you come home and watch TV, you eat a bag of chips and you don't even think of it. Yeah. And recognizing that, and then you will feel the urge to take the chips and so on, but recognizing that that is not a real craving, that your body is not hungry, it's just a habit. And then you can say, no, I choose not to do this. And it's simple.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. A very fun way for me was I love chocolate. When I was pregnant last year, I got gestational diabetes, so I moved on to dark chocolate. And
Right.
for me, not having to eat one piece of chocolate was very hard to do at first. So what I did was I made a ritual around it. So every night now, before I go to bed, I'll have a cup of tea, like a herbal tea, and have like one little cube of dark chocolate as like
Right.
my well done, you've survived the day. Now you can go to sleep, and here's your little treat kind of thing. So that I get my little bit of chocolate, but I'm not eating the whole bar. And
Hmm.
for me and myself, that's enough. So I've
Awesome.
gone from the big bars to bringing it down every month to now just a small little piece. And
Awesome.
it's about setting little goals. It's about understanding how you like the consistency. So I did a similar thing with Coke. I used to have Coke once a week. Then it went to once in every 2 weeks, and now we're at once a month. And now I'm okay with that. I can have a can
Yeah.
of Coke once a month, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's
Wow.
how. Yeah.
But
You can.
like you say, it's that intention
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and intentionally bringing it down to smaller portions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the things for me was that whenever I go out with my daughter, at our supermarkets, they offer us two sizes of the can of Coke. And so supposedly one is the kid size and one is the adult size. And I just buy the kid size. And my daughter is used to that we share one of those. So we're sharing it.
Yeah.
But it's that whole assumption of what is that size. I don't buy a bottle. I buy a tiny little can.
Mm-hmm.
And the majority of those packages that food comes in are huge. For example, potato chips, a portion is a handful. How many handfuls are in that thing?
Yeah.
And that alone, and that happens with all of those foods that are, and most of those junk foods are actually, chemically adjusted that you can't stop eating because it's good for business, and that's why it's so important to be mindful of it all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
thing about this is that we eat multiple times a day, so you have many opportunities to try it over and over again. So it doesn't matter, if you eat a bag of chips one, it doesn't mean anything. You can do it later again, start over, and it's fine. That's the process of making peace with food.
Yeah. Yep.
So if you look at your beliefs, let's get a bit more personal here. We've been talking very much if you.
Mm-hmm.
But when I ditched the diet,
Mm-hmm.
I had all sorts of specific things that I did believe about I can't lose weight. And I know that even last night when I was talking with Sarah and Michael and Sandra, one of the things that came up really quickly, we were talking about, Sharon posted about wanting to get back into running. And Sarah said her brain immediately said, oh, but you can't run.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so interesting that she was like, must have told myself this 1,000 times and never heard it. This time it said, oh, but you can't run. And I was like, oh, really? Says who? Who says I can't do that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the little voice that we hear, but we don't hear.
Mm-hmm.
That goes back to the mean girl, that voice behind you that you barely hear. If you don't pay attention, it just slips. And then you think it's you, you think that
Mm-hmm.
you are the problem, you can't run, but it's actually just the mean girl inside the brain telling you what you can't do. Yeah. It's like we have that animal brain, that one that is keeping us from doing everything in life, and then we have the human one who can take over, and then we do stuff in life, and that way we are also able to make peace with food and go for a run and do whatever we want. It's just a matter of distinguishing those two, to know that it's not you who can't run or who can't stop eating or whatever. It's just the voice. It's not you. It's not your identity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one very odd habit which I picked up from Slimming World years ago. Was I used to use spray oil, which is like they mix oil and something else, so that when you use oil, you actually use very little oil. And once I ditched the diet, and I used to only cook my food in this oil. Okay, so everyone else got properly cooked food, and I was the only one who used to control oil and everything else. So when I ditched the diet, one of the first things that my husband very kindly threw away was that stupid oil can, like the spray one. So it was so weird. Like I couldn't physically cook my own food. I was so used to taking a portion out that I was now taking a portion out. I was like, oh no, but now I eat this food. So put that back in and cook for myself.
Wow.
And it took so long to get that into practice. I think about three weeks in, I stopped taking my own portion of food out. And it was almost like a reflex action. I was like, yeah, no, I eat this now. So it goes back in. And
wow.
It was just like, you don't know how much this gets ingrained in you. The other thing that I had was when you're on Slimming World, they have something called free foods, which is you can eat as much as pasta or rice or anything, which is like a grain or something that comes from as much as you want. The sugar crashes I used to have because of that were crazy, because you can have a handful of pasta. That's your regular portion size, maybe 2 handfuls. Of
course.
With a lot of veg and stuff in it. But they can brainwash you to think that you can have maybe a bowl full of pasta and that's still okay, because at the end of the day, you'd still lose the weight, right? And get out of that mindset of what is the right portion of pasta for me without having my sugar levels drop after was a complete revelation. Just becoming mindful of not listening to what a fad diet is telling you to do. It's just so much that you don't see unless you do it.
Yeah.
I've got like a million examples like this.
Well, I mean, one of the things that Shirley Billingmeyer said to us was that whoever makes the rules holds the controls.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing, say, a Weight Watchers diet. Well, they're the ones that make the rules, so they're the ones that have the control. Seriously? So I have so little self-control that I have to assign to this group of people that I don't even know. Control over what I'm allowed or not allowed to eat. And they're not in my body. They don't know how this feels. They have no idea if I was hungry even when I started.
Yeah.
And they're going to tell me this is how much you can eat.
Yeah. And when you follow
my belief is I couldn't possibly choose how much I could eat because, I'm no good at that. We're so out of touch with our bodies. And I mean, we were laughing yesterday about, feeling hunger, that, if I know I'm going to have a meeting that's going to finish at 1:00, I'll probably have something to eat first because, oh my God, I could be hungry if we run over. Now, what's going to happen if that meeting finishes at 1:15 instead of 1:00? How much more hungry am I really going to be?
Not that much.
No. So why do I have to eat before I go into that meeting? Really? I mean, really? And what if that meeting went to 2:00? How hungry would I really be? Yeah, I might feel physical hunger, but is that such a bad thing?
No, it's a normal one.
Exactly. And yet we seem to have this absolute terror or fear of, oh my God, God forbid I feeling any hunger in my stomach.
Yeah, and that goes also when you are dieting and you are allowed to eat, 3 almonds and as many veggies as you want, and then you stuff yourself on the veggies, and that completely, ruins their whole point. And then you are eating 20 calories or however, but you are stuffed and feeling uncomfortable and horrible. Or even if you are having a meal and you know that you are allowed to eat only that for the next, 6 hours or something, then you eat the whole meal because of the fear that you will be extremely hungry later. Even though you may not normally be able to eat that much and you don't really want it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that is the biggest thing after ditching the diet is learning, when you are hungry but not starving to death, and when you are full but not overly stuffed, and the hunger scale from 1 to 10, you eat at 4 or 3 till 6 or maybe 7, and that's the biggest thing to learn.
Yeah. And that's a hard thing to learn. I mean, like one of the hardest things for me was that when I started doing that sort of thing, I would start eating the moment I felt the slightest hunger.
Yeah.
Why?
It was for me.
What is our fear of feeling hunger? I mean, where does this come from? And then
dieting.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. But we get ourselves in this horrid cycle of I can't feel hunger and I've got to eat till I'm completely stuffed.
No.
And that's no good for our bodies. So anyway, our challenge in February in Nourish is face the feelings. And it's going to be all about, after you've ditched the diet, how do you feel when you stop doing your activity and you sit down to start eating? And how do you feel when you stop eating and you're going to start activity again? So it's a real simple exercise to do each day. But in the group, we're running a challenge of who can do that recording daily with that level of mindfulness, because it's not just about doing the recording. It's actually about sitting in that silence and being mindful of how am I emotionally feeling right now. Not how much, not just how hungry am I feeling physically. What's my emotional state?
Mm-hmm.
Am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling bored? I mean, how many of us eat from anxiety or boredom?
Oh,
Okay.
boredom was the biggest one for me.
So for many of us, it's not that I ate because I was hungry. It was, well, I ate because I wanted something to do. Well, why didn't you find something to do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why is eating the first thing you think of when you need to do something?
Right. Because we have culturally become accustomed to that's what we replace boredom with.
Yeah. And it's not even a wonder. I mean, since I started the whole nutrition and intuitive eating and everything, now every movie I see and the commercials and everywhere there are, I don't know, women suffering from a breakup and then they eat a bowl of ice cream.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, you know, when a little girl that is like 14, 13 sees that, and then it happens to her, she thinks that's a normal way to cope with life, you know.
Yeah, but I mean,
I like it better when you see those movies and they've just broken up and they go in the gym and they just go all at it with the punching bag. You know, I mean, come on, let's give them some alternatives in the movies, please. You know.
but it's also very common to, if a child is upset, to say, would you like a piece of candy? You know,
or a reward.
something sweet to make you feel better for some reason. I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we literally train our children that if you're feeling bad, here, let me give you some candy and you'll feel better.
Yeah.
Or do something and I will give you a treat of food.
Yeah.
Reward is food. Celebrations are attached to food. Breakups and bad shit in life is attached to food. There's pretty much nothing that we do outside of the realms of food, you know.
But it's not food's fault.
No, it's just how it's been, how we're conditioned.
I mean, food is not the enemy. Food should be enjoyed. But the problem is that we stopped enjoying it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, ladies, I don't know how it is that we're over time already. And I feel like we've only just gotten started on the topic. But in any case, thank you both so much. Like I said, we're going to do this challenge in Nourish in February. We'd love to have as many people as possible participating in the challenge. Because the beauty of any coaching is seeing patterns. When you start to notice a pattern, then you can make a choice as to what you're going to do about it. And that is the beauty of any sort of journaling. Any sort of journaling allows you, gives you that opportunity to start seeing patterns. So come and join us in Nourish. We would have you. We'd love to have everybody participating in the February challenge of Face the Feelings. Hope to see you there. And thank you so much, Nina. Thank you so much, Shweta. And we will see you all next week.
Yeah.